I see so many men walking around with hats just like this one, a so-called straw hat that's really covered in plastic, and it doesn't have a lot of the functionality that you want out of a cowboy hat. Instead of keeping the sun off you and being breathable to keep you cool, it technically does keep the sun off you, but it's basically a sauna for your head and makes you, I think, arguably more sweaty than you were before. Now, I know a lot of people will wear felt hats year-round, especially if you're in a place like Montana and they just don't care about the hat rules. I mean, why should you? If you like the hat, like the hat. I love my felt hat. I would wear it year-round if I could, but here in Arkansas, with the humidity during the summer, it is ridiculous, and the felt hat does not cut it. It keeps the sun off you, but it is just too dang hot. So last year, I went out and I was like, I need to get myself a straw hat so I can have something cooler and still keep the sun off of me. And I ended up picking up this cheap plastic covered straw hat. I didn't even quite realize that there was even any other hats. Most of the hats that I'd seen around me were these cheap plastic ones. So I bought one. And boy howdy was I in for a rude awakening. This thing was a sauna on top of your head. Does it technically keep the sun off you? Yes, but it is so dang hot because it's plastic and it doesn't breathe. But then I finally found some hats that were made out of a palm leaf or straw that weren't coated in plastic, and they were really expensive. You were going to spend like $250 on a hat. But I found a great way to buy hats for extremely cheap. So that way you can get the best of both worlds, a really high quality hat with a price that is less than these stupid plastic ones. Today I'm going to show you two different methods to get nice high quality hats for super cheap. All three of these hats combined cost only $55. Now for the first method, which is definitely harder but can yield even greater success than the second method, is garage sales. This hat right here I picked up at a garage sale. This is an Atwood's hat. I picked it up at a garage sale for $5. Now normally this is a $150 hat, so $5. The thing with garage sales is you can find amazing deals like this, but more often than not, if you do find a hat, it might be one of the really cheap plastic covered ones, or it just won't be in your size. So garage sales can be a great way to find stuff, but you do really have to look at a lot of garage sales or just get really lucky. Whereas the second method is really easy and anybody can do it. Now the second method, and the way that I got both of these hats, was eBay. eBay, you can find some really high quality hats for really cheap. Both of these hats I paid $25 for. Now before you go on eBay, before you even pull up eBay, you want to know your size. If you don't know your size, you're going to have a really hard time because you'll find a hat and you're like, ooh, I like that one. Is it going to fit me? I don't know. So if you don't know your size, you can like measure yourself, but what I would do is I would just go to a store that sells hats, Boot Barn, a farm store, whatever you want. It doesn't really matter. Just find a store that sells hats and see what shape you like, see what style you like. I found out that I really don't like Stetsons just because they sit so high on top of my head and I feel like they're going to fall off every 2 seconds. So I don't want to buy myself a Stetson, and I actually would recommend that you don't look for a Stetson on eBay. Now when it comes to looking for hats on eBay, it's better to look for smaller, lesser-known brands. Atwood's is well-known in the cowboy community because they make very high-quality hats, but in the world at large, they aren't as well-known. Whereas like Stetson is the most famous cowboy hat brand of all time. So there is tons of them on eBay, but they're also expensive. A lot of the Stetsons, like, I don't want to be paying that much for a hat. So if you look for lesser-known brands, you can find way better stuff, and I actually have a couple for you to look up. The first brand, of course, as I've already mentioned, is Atwood's. You can get really high quality hats for really cheap. There's a lot of them on eBay. Just look up Atwood's cowboy hat and then put in your size and you can find tons of them. What you do not want to do is do not just search cowboy hat. You'll get a bunch of cheap junk that you frankly don't want. The next brand that you should definitely check out is Acroba. I think I'm saying that right. I'll put it on screen here. It is an Australian hat brand. They mainly specialize in felt hats, but you can find tons of these things. They normally retail for $300 to $400, and you can find tons of them for right around $100. Another brand you can check out is Rodeo King. That is the same brand as my felt hat that I showed earlier in this video. If you are going for a felt cowboy hat, I would recommend getting a higher X value. If you really want a nice hard wearing hat, I wouldn't go anything under a 5X. If you just want a hat you're going to throw on, maybe a couple times a year, you don't really care, you're not going to be wearing it to work in or anything like that, then it probably doesn't matter too much. But if you do want a hard wearing hat, I would recommend going above a 5X. For this hat, as mentioned, I got this one on eBay. It is an Atwood's hat, and I got it for $25. And then this one right here It doesn't even have a brand, but it was my size, and it's a handmade hat made in Guatemala, and it is an awesome hat. It's high quality. Between this and the Outwoods, I can't tell the difference, but it seems really nice, and it, keeps the sun off your head. Now, if you do get a hat and it is a tiny bit tight, granted, don't order something that is going to be too small. Don't order a size down, because that's really not going to work. But this hat is my size, but it is just a tiny bit tight. What you can do is you can take it to a steamer, and then just get it, and then you pull on it a little bit, and you can get it to where it's a little more shaped to your head. Again, this will not work if it's like an entire size too small. But if it is your size and it's just slightly too small, then you can do that. And this method applies to other hats as well, not just cowboy hats. You can find tons of fedoras, bowler hats, or really whatever hat you want using this method. When it comes to a fedora or some other type of hat, I would recommend finding a nice, expensive brand of hat you like and go looking for it on eBay. That's the best way to do it. I have found several fedoras that I'm definitely looking at purchasing right now by just finding an expensive brand of fedora that makes a nice quality hat and then going over to eBay and finding it. Well, now that you are armed with the knowledge of how to find an amazing deal on a hat on eBay, go find one. Just don't get the ones in my size. If you've enjoyed this video, consider checking out the video right up here, which I think you will enjoy. But other than that, I will see you guys all later.